Hey everyone, my name is Nadia Struiwigh and welcome to my studio. I have something super exciting to share with you because I made a track with a new instrument from Reason Studios called Objekt. An Objekt is based on physical modeling synthesis, and guess what? I made a full track only with this instrument for each layer. I would love to dive into that with you and I will show you how I've done it. Alrighty, so I opened up Ableton, and within Ableton I'm using Reason because Reason has a lot of instruments I love to use, and I started actually off with Reason. So it's for me very nice to wire it like this. And if I navigate to the left side of Ableton, you can see my VSTs and plugins, and if I navigate to Reason Studios and open it up, you can see Reason Rack plugin. And if I click on this one, I can drag and drop it into my arrangement view and I can add different instruments. So you can see already my favorite right now is the Objekt Modeling Synthesizer, and it's so powerful. Objekt is for me very mind-blowing and I will show you why. But first I want to show you what I created with it. It's just a base of a track. I still need to finish it, but it's around 5 minutes. So let's have a listen. Alrighty. So let's dive now into each channel. As you can see, I use the Objekt instrument for each different channel, and I want to show you that you can basically make one track out of it. But I will show you now in the first channel what I've done, so I will let you hear this. So it has a very particular sound, and I used for this a preset called Alien Lifeforms. This instrument comes with amazing presets, and I always love to start off with presets and manipulate it from that point, because it makes me get inspired, and also learning the instrument itself. So I'm using a sequencer to get the MIDI notes out of it, and I'm using the sound of the object. So as you can see, there are 3 tabs here in the middle of my screen. And the first calls model, and you can see it as a sort of bass tone, and we can create different frequencies and later create an object onto it. So it emulates a material sound, and I think that is the power of this whole instrument, that you can create actually very organic sounds, or let's say tones that we hear in real life, and use it in our music. I'm using an equalizer on this. As you can see, this plugin also offers a few effects. So an equalizer, distortion, compressor, delay, and a reverb. And in this particular sound, I used an equalizer, a compressor, a delay, and a reverb. It's really easy. You can just toggle them on and off. And in the equalizer section, you can change the frequencies. So let's dive into each channel, and I will show you what I've done. And I also want to show you that with this Objekt instrument, you can create a full track. And you don't need actually anything else, because you can create pads, you can create percussion elements, bass lines, and I think I only have the hi-hat and the percussion that I exported as audio. So in this case, I want to use more sort of the high sounds. I love that it sounds very grainy. It's sort of the base of the track I'm using. So yeah, the equalizer is in this way for me perfect to use. Then a compressor, of course, I wanted to compress this sound a little, especially because it has like some little plops and ticks. Then I used a delay. And that's the main sound you probably will hear in this, because if I put it off, plus the reverb, the sound becomes way drier. And for me, the art in sound design is working with a good delay and a reverb. And I think this instrument is offering that. So this delay, you can actually change the time. And because I use an Euclidean sequencer, you can hear there are so many different notes and steps going on that probably you hear the delay a little bit less. But we can also change the delay actually in a ping pong. So that means the sound actually transfers from left to right, which creates the sound way more dynamic. Actually, I leave that on because it actually sounds really cool. So my favorite delayed sync time is 3/16 or 1/8. It's a little bit more chaotic maybe. So let's put it here. Then of course this delay we can pan more to the right or more to the left. There's some feedback going on. For me it's a little bit like 50%. I found it. And a delay amount. Let's not go too crazy because there are way more sounds and we don't want to fill up the whole spectrum here, okay? So, but I do want to use a little bit of reverb. I believe every sound, and I know every sound has a reverb, you know, most sounds are not dry. So I love that the function here is, it offers me a reverb if I want to. So the decay we can like increase and decrease a bit. I'm using here large hall, so there are different sort of algorithms you can choose out of: large hall, medium hall, small hall, large room, medium, small as well. You can change the level here of the reverb, some reflections. It's a bit harder to, what I said, a little bit harder to hear that in this sound because it's already quite chaotic. You can see in my EQ down below of the screen that I also killed the lower frequencies because we want to use the lower frequencies for the sort of kick bass sounds. And the cool thing is, at each frequency we can give a volume. So with this gain we can change that. There's also a template, so we can also choose a template here. Maybe you want to use a bell or anything else. We're going to dive deeper into this to create a new sound later on, but for now I want to just show you a bit what I've done here. So then we have Object 1 and Object 2. And this is pretty cool. So I use now a sort of bass sound with this sound, but what we can do actually, we can create objects. So it's not for nothing called Object, and with objects we can emulate sounds out of real life, basically, with different frequencies. So every metal has a sound. It's never one frequencies. Like I work with sound bowls and they have many frequencies. So wherever you hit the bowl, it sounds differently. So, and that's what we can emulate. And on the right side, you can see there are different volume meters. So it's like a sort of, you can mix it. So you can mix the sound. And I will show you also that later on. On the left side, you have the Exarter impact. And with this, we can really create some cool sounds and the noise. So this is a little bit, very basic how I manipulated here the sound. Not too much. Just I used actually a lot of effects here. And in the bottom, you can see we can also create some different mappings and modulate different parameters, which makes it even also fun. I'm using a lot of times the LFO myself to give a sound a little bit more an organic or natural feel. I don't believe a sound is static. So next one, it's the second layer. I told you you can create some pretty cool kicks out of this. So I'm gonna open up Object again. And here you can see I use just one frequency. Of course you can create extra frequencies if you want to. So by pressing multiple layers on here, I'm gonna put on that I want to actually use the keyboard function, which actually creates different octaves as I already explained. So we can layer these up whenever we want. As you see, above it, I can press the layers on and off if I want to. So for now, we just want to use the lower layer because I just want to create a bass sound. And then we use a little bit of the Object 1 mixing level, because if I go now to the Object 1, you can see, let's go click back on. Let's loop this for now. Oh, that's pretty cool actually. So like this, going back to the second layer. I used actually, of the bass tone, I used another layer on top of that. So that's my first object, right? So here we can also press it on and off. And you'll hear already the difference. So we can create a really fat sound out of this. And for me, because I'm into experimental and ambient music, this is the perfect way of stacking up sounds. Like normally I have to do this separately in each channel, for example, and then export audio and maybe change the octaves or the tuning. But now I can do the tuning basically here. With synthesis. So and also what you can do, of course, with this mixing level, if you want to change up these sounds, we can easily map them. So, for example, I want to say to this parameter that I want to automate it later on. So I'm just clicking here on the left bottom to configure, saying Object, here, I want to change this parameter, and you can see it's popping up in here. And now if you can see this, I can actually move this back and forth and also connect this to a MIDI controller I have. So later on I can say, okay, let's map this parameter, and I'm just using one of my MIDI controllers, and then I can play live with it basically. So and each object you can actually pan as well. So imagine you want to use these layers, right? but maybe I want to use this sound on the right side. So maybe we want to have a little crunch on top of this kick, which is pretty sick as well. So, of course, mostly on bass or kicks, I'm using a compressor just to pump it a little bit up. So I'm using here just a compressor out of Ableton. But there's also a compressor within the object, which I already sort of explained. Did I use Exciter? No, I haven't used Exciter here. We can, of course, use it if we want to. We can create some different sound. So let's go on to the next thing, okay? Because I think there's too much still to show to you. Let's go into the third section. A hi-hat, you know. It is really cool, as I said. You can create all your different elements just with one tool. So as you see here, I actually used the modal, and I used also a first object, also with different frequencies. It's very delicate. There's actually a lot of white noise going on here. Also, when I put up the mix level from the Exciter, you can hear it's even more noisy. On the left side, that's the coolest thing, there's a really nice noise sound in this instrument. So I can increase that here on the left side. And I can choose out of different noises. So I can even use a colored one, static, noise pulse. So for now, I think I had it on white noise. So we can also change the velocity in this and the rate of the noise. Then we have also attack, decay, sustain and release. So if we want to use a little bit more white noise, we can do that as well. And also what I said before, we can all map these parameters. I think that makes it fun to play live, for example. So I want to have it a little bit. I want to have a little bit of decay in here. So a lot of times in IDM, for example, these crunchy noises work really well, and I think that is what this instrument can do as well. In this rack, you can stack up these objects as well. So here you can see I stacked up 2 of them. And of course they have a different sound than using one, for example. So on this hi-hat, I also used an EQ, some distortion, makes it just a little bit more crunchy, a delay. I really love that spatial sound and a little bit of reverb because hi-hats, for my feeling, always need a little reverb on top. So let's go to the third one. This is the perfect sample, actually. Here you can hear really well an emulation of a material, I find. Very metallic. And you can see I'm using, again, the Euclidean sequencer. It's really nice because sometimes I just want to use multiple rhythms at once. So here I used a bass sound actually, but it doesn't sound at all like a sort of bass sound. So you hear these different layers, but if I go, for example, to the Objekt 1, you can really hear that it created multiple frequencies. See if we want to add more frequencies to it. Or maybe not, you know, maybe we just want to use a sort of bass tone. Maybe we want to create a little bit of width. Then we go to the 5th one. And I think this is one of my favorite sounds I created out of it. It's so warm, it's unbelievable. I really love to use different kind of pads, and for me, it's the bass and the most important ingredient for an ambient track, or actually any track. Because without that, I can't create, I need a feeling. You probably hear like, hey, it's not just one sound, and that's true because I was stacking up different objects onto each other. And that makes this Reason rack so powerful. You can stack up like just different instruments and create basically your own synth. So in this case, I used a hi-hat synth to actually amplify the first note. It's just a sort of like powerful moment. I created some delay on that, as you can hear now, just static. Then I used the mellow tongue here, and that creates that pad sound and a time bass preset. So here, this is the lower layers out of it, and an ocean pad. So actually I use a lot on this one, I can see actually. So yeah, if you change these parameters, of course, they have all influence on each other. So I can also disable, for example, a hi-hat. You can hear now that I'm change the volumes. And with this, I can also mix it. So for me, this is a very creative way of playing with different frequencies in like one instrument rack. You can map these if you want to. For now, I will turn them up again. So you can hear this is the sort of pad I'm using. Then the time bass. Then I'll just put this mellow tongue up as well. It creates such a warmth. It's amazing. Yeah, I'm just in love. And you can see here also in the top, you can see like it can go to different outputs. So it's sort of your mixer. And then you can also turn them off and on, of course, as if you want to put the audio to the main output. So generally, in the left top, you see also just here an equalizer, and everything is quite well organized. So you can see also the direction of how this sound is going, right? So how it is wired. So you see these arrows, how it goes, and you have to see it as a sort of modules, you know? It just wires onto the next one. It changes it basically. So we can change the frequencies in here as well, if we want to. Yeah, it's just such an awesome sound, man. It's like next level. Anyway, next one. You can hear again what I done. A similar thing. Now I used a reverb on top of it. But also here I use different layers. So I'm basically, normally you have like all these different layers in your DAW, you know, but now I just use within that rack also like a pad sound. So let's go in here. And these are just MIDI notes. So I just played it into my keyboard or whatever. Yeah, this is my biggest love. How beautiful is this sound? Seriously, it's crazy. You can hear that I'm really fan of the delay and the reverb, because it's very static otherwise. You can hear that. So in this case, the bass tone is almost all I just use. And we can change this exciter impact and turn up the frequencies or change the frequencies if you want to. Makes it a little bit lighter maybe, and maybe we want to use a click. We can change the velocity of the hardness as well, the timing. It's very delicate, I love that. And maybe we want to use a little bit of the exciter noise, which we can use. So now it's on color. You can hear. So we also can change the length of that noise, right? So we create a sort of longer sound. So open up the release, the sustain. Now it becomes very, very, very like, love it. And also here we can also create a so here we can play with the pitch basically. It comes down to very good ears or knowing what you're doing, because yeah, what I said, like it creates a different octave, you know. So here we can also change the pickup drive of the sound. We can enable it by putting it on. It's very badass, to be honest. This is beautiful. So actually what we can do, we can create a different sound by using the decay. So maybe we want to have a longer sound. Add some drive. Maybe change the decay of the exciter. Yeah. So good. So then we're gonna go to our A channel, which sounds like this. Yeah, it's just beautiful. So when I open it up, I use the Ocean pad, and the Ocean pad is a pad, and you can't have ambient without a pad. So here, and to dive a little bit into this section, so we have Objekt 1, right? So this is the one we use. So we only use actually a sort of the resonance sound. So manipulate this sound by using these knobs below. Oh. So it becomes a bit spooky now, to be honest. So let's just put these off. So we can also use the different frequencies of the sound. So below you can see, you can mod it all yourself, which is really cool. I think this is an extra function that this whole instrument has. It's like on top of it. So I haven't done too much with this yet, but for my feeling, I would use a lot of times like the LFO, because I want to create a bit of a natural sound to it. Then we're gonna go to this fine one. Let's put it here. It's also great. I also put the decay is very short. So you can hear also like different levels. I used also a delay on this one. Creates a, I think, ping pong. Goes from the left to the right with my auto pan, which I love. Yeah, pretty cool. So then we go to the 10th channel. Basses. Of course you can use basses. It's such a powerful one. So as you can see already in my equalizer, I'm only using the lower frequencies in here. And then we go to the hi-hat. So this one is actually just one that I exported. So I created just different rhythms. And then a percussion. So yeah, let's create another sound. And here on the left side, you can choose out of presets, and you can also like use all the different instruments. But in this case, I'm gonna go back and let's just choose something that we probably want to add. I think I might want to use something like a sequence adding on top of it, maybe a little bit more higher. So we just recorded the sequence, so I just pressed on auto. That means like it plays the clip right now. Let's see how this sounds. It can be a bit louder. Maybe the velocity is up. It's gonna go into the plugin. So we can definitely use a little bit of delay on this and a little bit of reverb because yeah, it's quite dry. That's pretty sick. I think also the EQ is a little bit high, so I'm gonna kill the high frequencies a little bit. Maybe some distortion could be nice. That reverb can be a bit up, maybe a bit decay. early reflections. Let's see how it sounds. So overall you can also change the full tuning on the right side, which is also a nice add-on, I guess. Let's put a little bit less click. A little bit of less decay in here. Yeah, so what we're gonna do now, I can hear it. We're gonna use this part actually as in this. So we're gonna bring this up. I'm gonna go to the utility in here. We can even like go in here and, so I'm gonna put the utility here. Move it up so it comes out of, it's fading in. Oof, that's pretty cool. Whew. This is what I mean. So I need to tune it well though. Anyway, just a little surprise for the end. I always love that. I always love to end a track with something else, like just a different rhythm or an extra sequencer or ARP or whatever. So yeah, I think this makes it very cool. But yeah, anyway, there's so much still to talk about this, and I just wanted to really show you that with creativity, you can do so much within this instrument. It's mind-blowing, and I'm super, super happy to get it and that I could test it and play with it, because it really enriches my workflow and also the sound. So yeah, I wish you so much fun with it, and have a play and make different layers and stack them up, and yeah, it's great. Anyway, see you next time and hope you enjoyed.